Hey everyone, welcome back to my podcast, Flowering into 5D. Today I have someone who I'm super excited to connect with. Her name is Shruthi. And let me just tell you a little bit about her before we get started. Shruthi Desai is the founder of Mudita Circles, a heart-centered kids yoga initiative inspired by the Sanskrit word mudita, meaning sympathetic joy, the happiness we feel when others thrive. So after 12 plus years in the corporate world, Shruti followed a deeper calling that began with helping her own son manage focus and emotions through yoga. What started as a personal journey soon became her passion and purpose. She is now a certified kids yoga instructor and has completed her 200-hour yoga teacher training. Through Mudita Circles, Shruti combines her love for community and mindfulness to help children build emotional resilience, body awareness, and joyful connection. The program is rooted in three core values: kindness, empathy, and connection. Shruti's mission is simple yet powerful: to bring more love into children's lives and remind families what matters most in a world that often moves too fast to notice. Here to that line. So
Yeah.
welcome. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you for such a warm welcome and a great introduction. I appreciate that. I'm
Yeah,
doing well. Yes. How are
wonderful.
you doing?
I am also doing well. Thank you for asking. I can't complain. It's a Friday morning here in Cambodia and moving slow as usual, but that's just the way I like
Hmm.
it. So yeah.
That's perfect. Yes.
So I'm just curious, like we touched on it a little bit in your introduction, but I'm just really curious, like what exactly inspired you to start Mudita Circles, and was there a specific gap or moment that made you realize that this kind of community was needed?
That's a great question. I think there was initially there was no real plan. Everything so far has been a natural progression and very, I would say, very intuitive, and the way it's grown so far. It actually started with a need to help my son. We had been shuffling around between two countries, and so he was having a hard time kind of, trying to fit in, trying to just when he was able to adjust in one country, we were about to leave and then move. We were coming back to the US. So there was a lot of stress that I could feel. Nothing major, nothing really major, but then I could feel that he was not himself, the person that I knew. I felt that he was not being himself. So I just started, just out of curiosity, put on some YouTube videos and see if if he would be interested in yoga at all. By then I was totally into it. I have seen it help me through both my pregnancies, and so I was convinced, but I wanted to kind of get him interested and see if that would interest him. And then one thing was the need, and then my curiosity is like, how do I teach him, or how do I get him hooked? Because YouTube was not kind of, it was good for a couple of days, but then it was not helping. So that curiosity led me to kind of taking up a certification, understanding how to teach children, what are some of the techniques, and how yoga can benefit them. And the more that I understood, the more it got me hooked. And then I just started, maybe bring on other kids around. That this was actually my son's idea. He said, "Why don't I invite my friends and then you teach all of us together?" So I thought, okay, why not? And then we brought them on, and seems like everyone was, since it was a group of friends, they really enjoyed and had a good time. And then parents also kind of gave me a good feedback saying it is the need of the hour, and if this is something that you are starting, we would be interested. There were some who were like interested, and some I did get like, so what? Like, yoga, so what? Soccer, they might, get into a team, and they might play professionally, but yoga, so what? So I had some
Mm,
pushbacks, I had some misunderstandings, like not misunderstanding in as in what would I say? Like, not truly informed about what yoga could do to the kids. So there was
mm,
some kind of education and awareness that I had to kind of put in. But then this was all that was happening in the back end. Even before that, I decided to take this on fully. I was just trying to offer a few trial classes and see if this is something that really benefits both them and the kids, and parents see a value in it. And also for me to get a kind of um, a feel for whether this is just a hobby, or if this is really something that I want to take on full time. So the more I offered it, the more I saw people and kids enjoying it. It got me more interested, and soon the need turned into curiosity, curiosity turned into passion, and passion turned into purpose. Now that I, have been doing it for a while, I call it a purposeful passion. I've
mhm.
taken this on as a responsibility to kind of hopefully impact as many kids as I can along the way, if I can say that. Yeah.
I love that. And I live in Cambodia, as I mentioned, so I don't really have a lot of experience the lately anyways with children in the West. Um but over here, like, there's a lot of screen time. It's just like we're on our screens, and even um like older kids are like, they say they're hanging out with their friends, but really they're just like all on their screens.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so, like, opposite of what it was when, we were growing up. And I'm just
Right.
wondering, like, I know for your son, obviously he already sees the benefit, but I'm just curious, like, how do kids react at first? Are they like, well, I want my screen? Like, I'm so curious, like, how does it, does it, is there like kind of like a period of grace where you said like, that's so what? Like, I'm just curious how that goes with Western kids. Like, is it a natural transition where in like one or two classes that it's just like, I'm sold and I love it? Or do you think that they like take some time to warm up? Just random.
Yeah, I think, yeah, no, that's a great question, and I don't think I have one answer to it. And every child is different.
Of
There
course.
were kids who came in who were coming in only because their parents asked them to.
Mm,
And but today when I ask them, like, when they come in, I ask them how they're feeling, and when they leave, I ask them how they feel. Some come in saying, I'm frustrated, I'm irritated, I'm hungry. And when they go back, they say, I'm feeling calm, I'm feeling happy. I think that to me is like a great matrix, right?
mm,
Saying that I'm doing probably something right. And even kids, they may not, some people, some kids, they don't want to accept the fact that they are enjoying yoga, but the fact that they are saying that they are happy and calm is a good indication for me.
of course.
Um, yeah, and there was some that, you know, they were really interested because they were either into gymnastics and other activities. They thought yoga was a natural progression or a natural something that they would be interested. So they signed on,
Mhm.
and their interest has stayed on for, from the start as so far. And there are other kids who are like very reluctant, but they see the value. Not to be sexist or anything, but I see that, there's a lot of resistance in the boys, including my
Mm,
son. He thought that yoga is for the girls and yoga is only for the adults.
mhm.
But then, when he started, and he started with his friends, and his friends also were like, I'm not going to do this, I'm not interested. But today they tell me, they feel calm doing the Hoberman spear. They hold that and, breathe in and breathe out. They, they ask for it. They are like, when they're not feeling, they're irritated, they're like, can I hold on to that? So they ask,
Mm,
they're getting aware of what's happening, those feelings. I think that to me is magical.
definitely.
Sometimes yeah, sometimes they may not accept that they're liking, sometimes they may not want to come here, but looking at how their mood and how their reaction or how their awareness is changing, I think speaks more than, the words.
I love that. And I just think it's so funny, like how yoga has been so twisted around the world because like, the origin of of yoga, as you know, is it's like celibate men doing yoga.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just so funny to me that it's like, that's a girl's thing. It's like, well, actually, it's completely the opposite. But
Right.
oh, so so just going into the mention of emotions and coming back to ourselves. So your program Mudita Circles is centered around belonging and authentic connection, which is I
Mhm.
feel very lacking in many places these days. How do you approach designing experiences that foster that kind of emotional safety and depth?
Mhm. That's an amazing question. And why I wanted to be centered around community and having that kind of a place where they can come without being judged, with where they can be themselves. For me, that was the need because I'm originally from India and I moved to the US about 10 years ago. And when I moved in, I knew nobody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to build those true, meaningful connections was really hard. I mean, I did make some friends, I did connect with people of similar interest, and we were hanging out, but having the same kind of bonding and the friendship that I had back in India, maybe because we grew up together, whatever the reason may be, it was very hard to find. And if you've read that book, Ikigai,
Mm-hmm.
it's about the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where when a community comes together, there's that feeling of uh, I know I can call up on someone when I'm in need,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't have that fear, and when there's that interdependency, you can live longer, you can live peacefully, because you know that you are going to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that I felt was missing, and I was hoping to kind of give that kind of a sense of environment, where we have that space for kids to be themselves, express how they feel, share what they want to feel. It's not just yoga, but it's about it. I mean, yoga is truly about, connecting with yourself, right? So it's giving them the space, not just the asanas, but the whole aspect of yoga, is what something that I'm hoping to kind of get to, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Totally makes sense. And it's interesting because I've traveled a fair amount, and I've really noticed that in the East, like Asia and etc., that the sense of community is a lot stronger than it is in the West.
Mm-hmm.
I'm originally from Canada, and I embarrassingly will admit that when I would be in my apartment and I would be leaving and I would hear my neighbor come out, I would actually wait and hide until they would leave so that I could leave and not have to like interact with them, which now, looking back, I'm like, that's the saddest thing, not that I've ever heard, but I mean, it's very sad to not know your neighbor and also
Mm-hmm.
not even have any inkling of interest to want to connect with them. And I feel like that's really missing in the West, especially with the removal of elders
Right.
into homes or whatever it is, and this disconnection of all of
Mm-hmm.
our family, not just our immediate family, and everybody else is very far away. So I think it's really powerful
Right.
that you're bringing a sense of community to children because they
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that are going to suffer because we as older people, not elderly, but we're older,
Right.
we have a little bit of that remembrance of like, oh yeah, for me anyways, like my grandma was half an hour away and we could go see her and stuff. And kids these days often don't have that at all. And I imagine it's going to be very confusing for them once, their parents
Hmm.
pass, like who else is there, you know?
Right. Exactly. And everybody's so busy in their own, I mean, everybody's fighting their own fires, right?
Mhm.
Like, so nobody really has the time to sit down and connect. And if you're able to provide that, ultimately, I mean, let me step back. Ultimately, we are all humans.
Mm.
And what do we seek? We want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to be loved.
Mhm.
And that's the whole core of all humans and what our souls seek. So if at all we can just get down to that basic and provide that at the core, hoping that they will take that back, and have a ripple effect into the world.
Hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's just so important. I think, um, I was actually talking to a friend yesterday, kind of in a similar vein about this, like having the community, whereas not
Hmm.
having the community. And like we were talking about how, these days it seems like a lot of people are very walking on eggshells about like offending
Right.
someone. So it's like you don't want to
Hmm.
say the wrong thing because then you just might never hear from them again, or you might get canceled, or, whatever it is. And she mentioned it was like, back in a few generations ago, here in Cambodia, or even still here in Cambodia, you grew up with the people in your village, and that's who you knew your whole life. And if
Right.
somebody was mad at you, you would just go over to their house and say, like, "Hey, like, are you mad at me? Like, are we good?" But there's no,
Yeah.
that's not happening anymore, and I feel like it's really
Hmm.
disconnecting people, and yeah, it's just it's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, when you're in that close knit circle, you cannot escape the accountability aspect. And you're
Hmm.
always, you know the fact that you might run into them. That itself kind of maybe instantly kick something in you to kind of maybe fix it or try to go ahead and approach it. Maybe is what I think. But these days, it's very easy for us to distance ourselves and not run into each other. So, I think which is really sad, though. Like you said,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. And I think too with social media as well, like it's just people are in this echo chamber of what they want to hear amplified, because that's what social media
Hmm.
is it wants your attention, so it's going to give you what you want, so you stay on the platform. But I think a lot of
Hmm.
people don't really understand how it works. And then all of a sudden they're so in their beliefs that they aren't hearing that the other side potentially has some good points as well. And it's, we're
Hmm.
all good and you're all bad. And then it's just
Hmm.
creating this huge division. Do you see that in like you? I mean, I know you mentioned you're in the US. Like, do you see things like this happening among people that you know?
Yes and no. I think, yeah, I mean, it's such a fast-paced world, and everybody is moving from one task to another. It it's some they even if the distance is created, it could be because that they don't have the time to kind of go back and address it.
Mm,
Or it could be that, some people evolve over time, right?
mhm,
And like, not Oprah, Michelle Obama, in one of her, I think, one of her interviews, she mentioned that who do you have on your kitchen table? Who do you connect with? So I think that keeps evolving as we grow.
mm,
The people that we were once connected with may not be the ones that we connect with as we evolve. Maybe our interests, our way of life also changes.
mhm,
And that also might be one of the reasons why we might have such a things like distancing, and which to me is okay, right?
mhm,
As you evolve, and if you're having to put more effort to make it work, it is not worth it.
Mm,
Right? It has to be natural. It has to be it should come from both sides. It shouldn't
mhm.
be that one feels the pressure of having to keep up versus the other. Does
Yes,
it make sense? Yeah.
totally makes
Yeah, I
sense.
don't know if I answered your question or yeah, went around, but this is how I feel about it, that it could happen,
Hmm.
but there is a good side and the bad side of why it could happen.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally I agree. And yeah, it's there's layers to it, right? Like there's not just
Right.
one like here's the answer and let's move
Right.
on, you know. So yeah, I
Yeah.
completely resonate with your answer. And you know, I actually just going back to Mudita Circles for a minute, I would just love to know what's something unexpected or transformational that you've personally learned from facilitating or participating in Mudita Circles.
That's an amazing question. I started with a goal to help children, but
Hmm.
I think uh, the the journey through from the start until now, the most that has the person that's most seen the transformation through that process, I would say, is me. I mean, I thought,
Mm.
I would help, but I think it is in turn helping me
Hmm.
being more aware of myself, of who I am and how I should be, and what are some things that I don't want, and how should I be around kids? Because
Hmm.
before it was just my kids.
Hmm.
Now I feel the responsibility of other kids.
Hmm.
That I want them on the same path as I would like my children to take. So I
Hmm.
feel that responsibility has also kind of in turn brought in a lot more responsibility in me and a sense of being more aware of how they are around me, how I am around them. And like yoga says, you have to meet them at where they are. So
Hmm.
trying to understand their needs, trying to be there for them, and trying to kind of keep the parent in me a little or maybe within closed doors and not get into any judgments, or no, not just say no without trying to hear out what they say. And again, I'm human, I'm still learning and still figuring it out, and I do sometimes fall, sometimes may not know the right thing, but every day has been truly rewarding, eye-opening experience. And I personally have evolved a lot and transformed a lot through this last 11 months, I would say. I struggled personally for the longest time to express myself, like to
Hmm.
know what I'm feeling and to voice that out was
Hmm.
not easy for me.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that the kids would not have to go through that. And
Hmm.
so with this initiative, everything that I'm trying to do is trying to ask them, make sure that they know what they're feeling, how they're feeling, and act accordingly. Maybe it's coming from my own kind of, struggles, that I hope that, others don't struggle with it.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, emotional literacy or emotional intelligence is so important for kids today because, you know, I think
Hmm.
you're definitely not alone in that, you know, voicing or putting labels on your emotions, even as an adult can be very tricky and difficult, especially if you weren't shown the way. So I think it's extremely powerful what you're doing to help kids through that. And I just have to bring something up that you reminded me of that I think would be helpful, not to you, like, oh, here's some advice for you. I don't mean it like that, but here's something that I think is really helpful for any parent out there to hear is that, and I can't remember who said this, so don't quote me on who said it, but it was basically like a small anecdote about how parents are actually like the worst listeners. Because you know like the example was, oh, it was Dr. Gabor Mate who said this is, you know, if your child comes to you and says, well, I want blue hair, our first reaction is like, yeah, no, I don't think so. Like it's just an immediate shutdown. But instead of, us shutting them down, it's a lot more powerful to just listen. And if we can just take our judgment out and just listen, we
Right.
can find out a lot because, if our child says, okay, I want blue hair, and you're like, oh, you want blue hair, and just, kind of parroting what they say. Yeah, I think I really want blue hair because a lot of my friends are doing it. And again, there's that opportunity to be
Hmm.
like, yeah, no, if your friend jumped off a bridge, would you, but if we just,
Right.
again, give them some space and say,
Yeah.
oh, okay, all your friends are doing it. Oh, so that's why you want it. And then
Hmm.
usually by that time, eventually they'll get to the core of, if you give them that space of like, well, yeah, because I don't really feel like I fit in. And if I am able to do this, then maybe I'll finally feel accepted. And just giving kids the
Hmm.
space to be able to share that with parents. That's the conversations that we want to have with our kids. It's not
Right.
just, oh yeah, no blue hair, beat it, go play
Yes.
your video game or whatever, because that's not really giving kids that space that they so need. And I mean, I also didn't feel like I got a lot of like airtime with my mom to be able to express like my truest
Hmm.
desires. And then, over time we, like, parents wonder like, why are my older kids not connected with me? Why are they're teenagers and they don't like me? And it's like,
Hmm.
I mean, let's just be real. Over time, if you keep shutting them down, they're going to shut you down eventually, you know?
Right. Right. Yes. Yes. It's hard because, instinctively you want to reply and do the thing that you think is the right thing. But like you said, giving them that space, giving them the opportunity, hearing them out, and helping them, empowering them to make the right decision by questioning, I think yeah, will help. But yeah, like you said, that's the right approach. Every now and then I catch myself saying no, and then I'm like, oh no. And then I sit down, get on at his level, make eye contact, and then I'm like, why, how, and trying to
Mm-hmm.
question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's been a
it's
fun journey, yes.
yeah. Parenting is really a mirror, right? Like when
Oh
there's
yes.
times where I'm like, oh, I don't like what I see.
True, true, yes.
So tell me a little bit more about just the format of Mudita Circles. Like, is it something that you offer like an after school program, or is it like at schools? Like, tell me more about that.
As of now, I'm currently taking all of these classes at my basement,
Mm-hmm.
and it's mostly after school. And it's a weekly class. Children come over for an hour, and we go through asanas, which is movement. We have meditation. Sometimes it is not meditation in form of an activity. They are doing more of a mindful activity, getting them kind of comfortable with sitting down and not having to talk and not having to interact. That itself is, I think, amazing. So slowly I'm trying to get them into kind of appreciate the quietness and the silence. And we also do a lot of breath work. And then, we also keep some time to understand each other's feelings, anything that they want to share. So it's an open space for movement, breath work, meditation, and all of it.
Love that. Sounds amazing. I want to
Yeah.
go, even though I'm an adult. I'm like, I want to come too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm evolving and, kind of changing as the day go by because, children, they're unpredictable. As much as you like to plan, there are things that, you don't know how they would react to it. So I always have a couple of backups ready just in case. And yeah,
Mhm.
I'm kind of figuring out as I go as well what works, what doesn't work. So I think the most one thing if I've learned is that being open, being aware of how people are perceiving or how kids are perceiving it, how they are, being around a certain activity has helped me, tweak things along the way.
Hmm. I love that. And I'm just curious, like if you could give like a piece of advice or a word of advice for somebody like sorry, this is like a messy backup question for a second. So you mentioned or I mentioned in your biography or introduction, just that you were 12 plus years in the corporate world and now you've moved into this beautiful heart-centered business where you're helping children and it just sounds so wonderful. So my last question for you would be what piece of advice can you give to somebody who is in that space of like, I'm in the corporate world, I see this thing I want to do, but I'm just like, I don't know how to do it. Like what would you tell that person?
That's a great question. I would like to answer it slightly differently.
Yes.
When I decided to do this, and after giving myself a lot of time, I went on LinkedIn and posted that this is what I'm doing. And then my yoga teacher reached out to me and congratulated me. And the first thing that I told her was that, I feel like I'm late. I
Mm,
should have done this maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I feel like I'm already late.
mm,
She told me one thing. She said, you know, everything comes at the right time. If you
yes.
probably chose this 5 years ago, you probably would not have valued as much as you're valuing it now, and you
Mm,
may have probably given up, uh, in a 1 or 2 weeks or even shorter span. You never know. So I
mhm,
think what she said made so much sense to me, because I feel like in my past life, which is my corporate life, I was a number cruncher. I went with data. I needed impact. I needed to crunch data. But now my impact is totally different. The way I see impact is totally different versus how I looked at it. So I think everything comes at the right time. And when that fear goes away, everything falls in place. So if there
mm,
is something from that's how I took it. I never had a fear.
mhm,
I have had in the last 3 years, I've had 10,000 of business ideas,
mhm,
but everything had a lot of fear behind it. But this thing, I honestly didn't have absolutely no fear. I'm like, worst case, right? My
mhm,
kids would benefit.
mhm,
No matter what happens, I'm happy if my two children come out, through the course or throughout, come live a mindful life and be happy knowing who they are and connected with themselves. That's it. I'm happy. So with that intent, I went ahead. So whoever is in that same situation, I would say ask them why is it that they want to do it, and if they are able to figure out why and take away the fear aspect, if the timing is right, it will naturally happen.
mm. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'll just say that for those listening, you can connect with Shruti on Instagram. It's Mudita Circles. So it's all one word and it's MUDITACIRCLES, Mudita Circles. You can also find her on her website, muditacircles.com. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad that we connected. And yeah, I'm just thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And truly, it was an amazing, having this conversation with you. So thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Well, thank you everyone for
Yeah.
listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.